Today, we're going to completely reframe the way you think about focus. We're going to dive into why you might not be distracted, but actually something way more powerful and way more interesting.
So let's set the scene. You've got it all perfect, right? The noise-canceling headphones are on, you have a clear goal, you're ready for some deep work. But like 10 minutes in, your mind is gone. What is actually going on in that moment?
Well, first, it's the refrigerator. And you don't just hear the hum. No, your brain is rendering it. You're processing the exact frequency, the tiny vibrations. It's not just noise, it's a data point, and it's demanding your attention. And then, a cloud passes outside. Your brain immediately locks onto the change in light. You're analyzing the new angle of the shadows, the tiny shift in the color temperature. It's another piece of data your mind feels, obligated to process. And it's not just stuff out there. Suddenly you're hit with this existential weight of an email you didn't finish 3 days ago. Your mind is absolutely everywhere and nowhere, all at the same time. Does that sound familiar?
Society has some pretty easy labels for this, doesn't it? ADHD, laziness, or my favorite, a lack of discipline. The advice is always the same. Just try harder, maybe buy a new planner. But what if that whole diagnosis is just wrong?
This feeling leads to something the source calls profound intellectual shame. And that hits hard, right? It's that awful gap between what you know you're capable of and what you actually get done. You see the world in such incredible detail, but your output, it just doesn't match that high-resolution thinking.
Okay, so let's completely dismantle that myth. It is time to move away from this idea of sensory chaos and step into what's called attentional sovereignty. And it all starts by understanding you don't have a broken mind, you have a high-performance one.
So here it is. This is the core reframe. Society calls you undisciplined, but the structural truth? You are hyper-aware. Look, this isn't a character flaw, it's a hardware feature. Your brain is literally rendering reality in 8K, but the world is built for 240p. It's like trying to listen to a single whisper in the middle of a hurricane. I want you to let this sink in for a second. You are not failing to focus. You are over-rendering reality. What feels like a distraction is just another high-resolution piece of data that your incredibly powerful brain thinks it has to process. So, what's the actual biology behind this 8K mind? Well, the explanation lies with a really crucial gatekeeper inside our brains.
I want you to meet the thalamus. Just think of it as the bouncer at the nightclub of your consciousness. Its job is to stand at the door and decide which sensory information gets in and which has to stay outside. And for most people, this bouncer is really strict.
So a typical brain has what's called a high gating threshold. That bouncer, the thalamus, it filters out something like 90% of all the sensory noise. But in a hyper-aware mind, what the source calls a sentinel, you have low latent inhibition. Your gate is basically stuck wide open. Everything gets in.
And what happens when those floodgates are open? Well, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, it has to work insane overtime just to manage the chaos, and it gets metabolically exhausted. The big takeaway here is simple. You aren't lazy. You are cognitively saturated.
We can even turn this into a kind of formula. Focus equals your gating efficiency divided by the environmental complexity. Now, for a hyper-aware person, that gating efficiency number on top is low, and your perception of the environmental complexity on the bottom is incredibly high. It's 8K. And the result of that equation? Cognitive saturation. So if willpower is not the answer, then what is? The solution isn't to just try harder, it's to get smarter about your environment. This is where we introduce something called the gating protocol, and it's all about environment hardening. Okay, so this protocol has 4 steps. First up, sanctuary. You have to create a 240p workspace, physically remove all those distracting data points. Second, anchor. Use something like white noise to give your thalamus a predictable, boring signal to hold on to. Third, sprint. Don't try to work for hours. Work in short, intense 20-minute sprints locked on a single task. And fourth, label. When your mind wanders, don't get mad. Just clinically label it, "My thalamic gate is leaky," and then gently come back to your focus.
So let's bring this all home. The whole goal here is to stop thinking of yourself as some broken machine that needs to be fixed, and start seeing yourself as a high-performance instrument that just needs the right calibration. You get to be the architect of your own focus.
It really all comes down to this one powerful idea. Focus is not about doing more. It is about seeing less.
The key isn't about forcing yourself to push through the noise. It's about strategically creating an environment that lets you dim the world's complexity so your own signal can finally shine through.
So the ultimate takeaway, the new identity I want you to try on is this. You are not flawed. You are a high-fidelity sensor. Your incredible awareness is your greatest asset. The only trick is learning how to build a shield to protect it.
And that brings us to the final question. This entire framework is about making a shift from being a victim of your own awareness to becoming the observer of it, calmly and intentionally directing your powerful mind wherever you choose. So are you ready to be the observer?